Hi, this is episode 82 of Crondos. I'm your host, Jordan Hudgens. I'm a Ruby dev and the CTO of the DevCamp platform. Imagine for a minute that you're a freelance developer who was handed a new feature to build by a client. Then picture yourself building an elegant feature, all of the code working perfectly. You follow best practices and ensure that all of the potential edge cases are completely covered. Now imagine that you're demoing the bright and shiny new feature to the client. But instead of telling you that you're the greatest developer in the world, that they're gonna name their first child after you, they look at the application confused because what you built didn't match what they had in mind at all. This is a scenario that is played out all too often in the freelance development world. In many cases, it's due to poor requirement elicitation. The story I just mentioned is not a made-up parable. It happened to me recently. And when I say recently, I mean yesterday. So what did I do wrong? The issue was caused by me rushing through the requirement elicitation phase. I had worked for this specific client for over 5 years, and I got lazy confirming the exact set of requirements needed for the feature. Let's walk through what happened so you can avoid the same embarrassment and wasted time. A few weeks ago, the client contacted me and said that an application I had built for them needed a new feature. The application is an invoicing system that their drivers utilize to generate invoices for clients. Pretty straightforward. In an email, the client attached this spreadsheet. He said that the application had to generate this invoice to give to the customer. After receiving the email, I spent a few days modeling the new feature. I put a list of all the messages that would need to be passed between the modules. I built UML diagrams to ensure the data was modeled properly. And after careful planning, I'd spent 2 weeks building the new feature and it came out beautifully. To be 100% honest, I was very proud of the work I did. This feature was flawless and completely bug-free. It also fit in perfectly with the rest of the application. I deployed the code to the staging server and waited for the client to start showering me with praise, but the praise never happened. I emailed the client and gave a video demo of the feature. A few hours later, I received an email from the client that said, "I'm confused. What exactly is all this?" In my email, I just meant that we need the invoices to be formatted like the spreadsheet. So it turned out that the client didn't want a new module built in the application at all. Instead, they simply wanted an additional format option for their invoices. So who exactly was at fault? It may seem natural to put the blame on the client since they didn't make their request clear at all, and I was tempted to get upset and blame them, especially for the first 10 to 20 seconds of my fury. But then I realized that this issue was completely within my control. As freelancers, it's our job to manage each stage of a project. If we rush through the requirement elicitation phase, anything that happens after that will fall on us. So how could this have been avoided? Let's walk through the process I should have followed and that I usually follow when working with clients that would have led to a better outcome. Right after getting the email, I should have responded back to the client with clarification questions. Examples might have been, do you want this to be on a new page of the application? This is better than saying something like, do you want this to be a new module? Because a non-technical client isn't going to know what a module is, but they will understand what a new page on the site is. Another question could have been, how will this interact with the other parts of the website? This question would have instantly given me the feedback to know that this spreadsheet was simply meant to be a different invoice formatting option. Another question could have been, can you describe the flow on how this will be generated? This is one of my favorite questions to ask because it forces a client to be explicit with how a new feature should work. Many times, I'll ask a client to create a PowerPoint slide deck showing the flow they want from the feature. After asking clarification questions, I should have followed up with a small prototype. I could have used a tool like InVision or even just a PowerPoint deck where each slide held a different page of the proposed new feature. Examples would have been, starting with slide 1, here is where you can click on a button to get to the new page. On slide 2, I'd show the form page where the user could enter in their information. Lastly, on slide 3, I would show the invoice that was generated by the new feature. If I would have followed these 2 steps, it would have taken me anywhere from a few minutes to a few hours to establish what feature was actually needed. As you can imagine, this is a much better option compared with wasting weeks of development time. I hope that this has been a helpful guide to freelance requirement elicitation, and that you'll be able to learn from my mistake and apply it to your own business.